Hello, my name is Oscar Stapleton, and this is part one of a two-part project for the module Theorising Islam at the University of Exeter. This project is entitled Podcasts as a Tool of New Islamic Movements in Jordan. In the first part, I'm going to show you various clips from one episode of a popular Jordanian podcaster who explains verses of the Quran within his podcast. He's called Ghaith al-Batighi, and the podcast I'm particularly looking at today, the episode, is called My Story with Atheism and the Way I Returned. I'm going to show 5 clips. 3 clips are going to be to do with his explanatory method and his interest in science to explain the Quran. And the 2 final clips are going to be about focusing on the way in which he presents himself. I'm mainly inspired or looking at the work through the lens of Asif Bayat, who I think he provides a really useful focus for looking at this individual, Ghaith al-Batighi, as a part of a broader Islamic social movement. So I'm going to start with a clip which shows Ghaith al-Batighi's explanation of a key verse about Muhkamat wa Mutashabahat.
فكان الجواب بسورة العمران اللي هي هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب فيه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخرى متشابهات. القرآن فيه آيات محكمة، يعني أنا وياك لو قرأناها مع بعض راح تطلع معك نفس المعنى. يعني قل هو الله أحد، إيش راح تفهمها أنت؟
أنه الوحدانية
إنه الله واحد، بغض النظر تآمن فيها ولا. القرآن هيك عم بيحكي وأنا بقرأ نفس الشيء. بس لو نرجع على آية اللي حكيت لك إياها مثلا الجبال تمر مر السحاب، صنع الله الذي أتقن كل شيء بسورة النمل. لو أنت تقرأها ممكن تفهمها شغلة، ممكن واحد عالم جيولوجي يفهمها أو عالم علوم الأرض جيولوجيا بلاقيها في شغلة تانية، فصار في تشابه بالفهم لنفس الآية. فبجوز جواب سؤال حضرتك هو إنه
So we can see here that Ghaith is building a distinction between Muhkamat wa Mutashabahat, and he defines Muhkamat as ayahs from the Quran which we can't disagree upon, and he defines Mutashabahat as, let's say, ambiguous verses that people have different opinions about, and that depending on your knowledge you can understand in different ways. So as an engineer himself, he's going to have a particular understanding of the following verse from Surah Al-Nisa.
زي ما حكينا مدام المعرفة عم تتغير، فقلنا انه مثلا في عنا فيزياء، في عنا كيمياء وشغلات. فليبتكنا اذان الانعام فليغيرنا خلق الله. فهاي الايه لما جابها واحد عم بيتعامل مع اسباب نزول ومع تاريخ، راح يفسرها بقول لك كانوا يقطعوا الاذن الغنمه عشان يقدر يميز الراعي لغنمته من غنم الثانيه. بس هلا لما نشوفها بتشوف لها علاقه كتير مثلا مع بالجينيتيك انجينيرنج اللي هي هندسه الجينات تبع يعني الحيوانات، انه دائما في شيء بسموها السوماتيك سيلز او الخلايا الجسديه بتختلف عن الخلايا الجنسيه. الخلايا الجنسيه بتكون نص عدد الكروموسومات، الخلايا الجسديه فيها على الضعف. فوين بتاخذوا يعني شوف اي بيولوجيست شاطر بقول لك يا بتاخذوا من الانف او من الاذن، عشان هدول احسن، يعني بنحكي بيئه خصبه اللي انت تقدر تعمل عليهم الجينيتيك انجينيرنج بالدي ان اي اللي موجود فيها والجينات الموجوده فيها.
So we can see here how he takes his understanding of verses with the mutashabahat, for example, this from Surah An-Nisa, and uses it to interpret these verses in line with modern science. So himself as an engineer, like I mentioned, will take his understanding of genetic engineering and apply it to Surah An-Nisa, basically to have this idea that it's encapsulated in the surah, the same idea that we find in genetic engineering, that when biologists want to sort of copy the DNA of an animal, they'll take it from their ears, just as the Quran said about cutting the ears of cows in Surah An-Nisa. So I think maybe to put this in further perspective, I'm gonna try and look at other understandings of muhkamat or mutashabihat from Islamic history. So I want to compare, for example, the ideas of Ghayth al-Batighi with Ibn Kathir. Okay, so let's first look at how another clip from Ghayth al-Batighi in which he quotes the passage Yom Ya'ti Ta'wiluhu, and then compare that with Ibn Kathir. Sorry, okay.
من الناس انه هو التدبر تبع القرآن او تفسير القرآن او فهم القرآن راح يتكشف مع الزمن. يعني ربنا حتى بيحكي بالقرآن يوم يأتي تأويله، يعني تأويله راح يجي بعد فترة. وإن علينا جمعه قرآنا ثم إن علينا بيانه.
Okay, so how does this interpretation differ with that of Ibn Kathir? Ibn Kathir cites the verse وَمَا يَعْلَمْ تَأْوِيلُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. So no one knows the Quran's interpretations except God. And so we see in Ghayth al-Batighi's choice of verses from the Quran that he's purposely doing this in order to imply that the job of tafsir is basically to understand the Quran in the context in which you're living, according to the knowledge that you have. So Ibn Kathir actually cites Ibn Abbas, stating that tafsir is of four types. Tafsir that no one is excused of being ignorant of, tafsir that the scholars know, tafsir that only Allah knows. Sorry, three types. So Ibn Kathir is sort of stating that ayats actually must not be altered to imply a false meaning or to be distorted from the truth. I'm not saying that Ghayth al-Batighi is doing that necessarily, but I'm saying that there's this implication in sort of earlier Islamic historiography. Ibn Kathir was an important thinker in the 14th century, and I think it's important to say that there is a basis for Batighi's argument in Islamic history as well. For example, the work of Razi, which is cited in Muhammad Abdu and Rashid Rida's work on tafsir and on the mutashabihat, states that you do have to have mutashabihat require an external proof, and I think that's almost what Batighi is looking at. He's looking for external proofs, so not for example, that come from modern science. So that's a bit on his process. Now let's look at basically how he presents himself as an authoritative figure. One second, sorry.
في جملة حكاها نيوتن مرة بحبها كتير، بقول لك إنه أنا قدرت أشوف لأبعد عشان إنه أنا قدرت أطلع على الشولدرز أوف جاينتس، يعني على ظهور أو إنه أكتاف عمالقة من قبلي. فأكيد في ناس.
Okay, that's the first clip. I'm going to explain that after I show you the second clip.
ترى إنه إحنا ما يكون عندنا اللي بسموه تحيز السوشيال بايس أو التحيز العدد الأكبر أو العدد الكثرة، ولا يستوي الخبيث والطيب ولو أعجبك كثرة.
Okay, why did I show these two clips to finish off the podcast? Because I want to show how he's presenting himself as a certain type of individual in order to increase his authority. So he's showing that he's well knowledged in a particular type of science, so that associated with Newton, who's a physicist from the United Kingdom, and that he's very comfortable interchanging between English and Arabic terms. So I think that fits well into his project. So thank you for listening. And on the second part of the project, I'm going to theorize more of the ideas that I've built on in this part of the podcast. Thank you.